Hey everybody, Tim Evanicki here with the College Audition, back again with another episode of the College Audition podcast. My special guest today is Michael Jablonski, Assistant Professor of Musical Theatre and Program Coordinator for the BFA Musical Theatre program at Brenau University. How are you today, Michael?
I'm good, Tim. How you doing? It's good to
Doing
hear your
great.
voice.
Thanks so much. So, as our listeners know, we always like to get to know the person before the program. So, my first question for you is going to be to tell us about yourself and your training and career that has led you up to your time at Brenau.
Yeah, so I guess we can start way back. I'm like your typical like this story that happened a lot when I was a kid, where I was a male athlete that wanted to try dance, and I went and took a dance class. I was in seventh grade, and my friends all made fun of me. And then I decided that I had to try something different because I didn't want my friends to make fun of me. Well, I always wonder what would have happened if I continued, but I ended up quitting and I ended up doing a bunch of sports. But later on when I went to college, I found my way back into the theater department. I was a math major and I ran track in college. And while I was doing that, I was taking some acting classes and doing some different things as like gen ed requirements. And while doing that, one of my professors said, "Why don't you take a dance class? It will loosen you up in your acting and your and all that." So I did, and I basically like went into that class. Took my first jazz 101 class. It went felt like I was playing a sport. I could do what they were doing. I had zero technique, but it was a lot of fun. And then I ended up like with my track career, I ended up getting an injury, which ended up ending that. But I continued performing and doing working in the dance department, doing some small productions at University of Buffalo, which is where I went to undergrad. And luckily, as a non-major, they really supported me into their program. Well, I ended up doing a production of Godspell, which my mentor from undergrad, Lynn Kurzweil-Formato, I remember talking to her opening night, and she said to me, this is something, I just see it in you that you have this joy and passion for the stage. And I said, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to change my major. And I switched out of the math department, ended up switching over to the theater and dance department, ended up having to go to school for 5 years to get my undergrad and graduated with a BA in theater and dance from the University of Buffalo. After that, while I was in school, I was doing I didn't do back when I was in the late 90s. The summer stocks were not as vast as they are now. So I actually ventured into theme park. I worked at Busch Gardens in Williamsburg, Virginia for 4 summers. And I call it my mini grad school because what was wonderful about Busch Gardens was they had training classes at night. So after my 5 shows a day, I would go take dance class at night, or I would take a vocal class at night, or an acting class. And that was really an added training ground for me. But while I was also catching up at University of Buffalo, I was also taking ballet classes at Inner City Buffalo Ballet. Hindsight, what I'm trying to tell you is I was trying to catch up. I was starting late, and but ended up graduating. Then after my theme park days, I ventured into the cruise ship world, and I worked for Gene and Ryan Productions, did 2 contracts with them on Norwegian Cruise Lines, and back then they were one of the first people that were doing musicals on the ship. So I actually did Grease on the ship back in the late 90s. I then, after I got off the cruise ship, I got a job in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, doing a review type show. And while I was there for 2 weeks, I went to New York City and I auditioned for a non-union national tour of Brigadoon, and I booked that. So I quit the one job and I went out on a national tour. And while I was on that, on a layoff, I booked another non-union national tour, which was Victor Victoria. And then after Victor Victoria, I decided I needed to move to New York. Well, I moved to New York right after that tour and immediately booked Theater by the Sea, where I did West Side Story and I did Joseph. And those productions were a full union contract. So back in those days, there was not the buying in of like EMC points or anything. So that was a full equity contract that I was offered, which brought me into the union. After that, I booked my first, what I call my big I guess you would say a big break, was I became the dance captain and swing in 2001 for the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas tour that starred Anne Margaret. And I did that for 2 years. And before I knew it, I was in and out of New York. And after that tour, I booked four more national tours, because I did 6 national tours in a row. But I wasn't really breaking into the Broadway market. So I talked to my agent, which I signed with earlier on in my career, and I realized that what I really needed to focus on was my voice and my vocal training. So I put a lot of effort into that. And before I knew it, in 2007, I booked my first Broadway show, which was Crybaby. Did the Out of Town, and then we came into Broadway in 2008. Also did West Side Story, the revival, in 2010 that Arthur Lawrence directed. And then I also was in Book of Mormon on Broadway. So I got to do these very vastly different Broadway experiences, which really was exciting. And I feel very fortunate for the career I've had. I've worked in multiple regional theaters. In the union, I've worked in every contract there is, but I've also, one of the things I like to say is I performed in every state in the United States except for Hawaii. But again, that's my performance career. That it led me to, in 2017, I was finishing up the Matilda National Tour, which was actually my last performance gig. I was the dance captain and swing of that production. I got married, and I realized I wanted something different. I was loved the stage, but I wanted something different out of my, more stability, but still connected to the arts. And going back to my original, days in undergrad, I was still friends with my mentor, Lynn Kurtzel Formato, and she was teaching at Elon University at the time. And she contacted me and said, "Hey, I need to take a sabbatical semester off. What would you think about if I recommended you to come teach at Elon?" And I was like, wait, I was like, what? I was like, I never thought about going into academia. And she just thought that she thought teaching would be something that really really spoke to me. And my mother taught special ed for 35 years. So I think that's a little bit in me as well, with regards to the patience she has as a teacher. So, long story longer, Elon, I applied there. They hired me. Um, and I remember one of the professors there, Brian Kremer, was walking past me after I think it was 2 weeks of teaching there. And he saw my face and he says, you got bit by the bug, didn't you? And I said, what does that mean? And he says, you're kind of like immersed. You're already loving this academia journey. And I said, oh my God, I said, this is amazing. I love working with these students. I love, seeing them succeed gave me the same excitement and energy that I got when I performed on stage. And I just loved, that idea of being able to help someone succeed. So I taught at Elon for a semester. They ended up asking me to stay for the whole year. I stayed for the whole year. My mentor retired, and Elon actually asked me to stay for 2 more years. In the midst of all that, knew that I needed to apply and eventually get my terminal degree in grad school. So at the time, I was accepted to Florida State University into their MFA directing program, which I don't know if you know about. If anybody knows about directing programs, they're very difficult to get into. Only 2 people get into them, almost sometimes every other year. And this was an opportunity to get that degree. I wanted to diversify my skill set because I really enjoyed directing. I was a choreographer, but I really loved the bigger picture of a director. And I also knew in academia, I wanted to teach dance. It's part of who I am, but I also love to teach acting and, acting for the song and scene study. So I ended up turning Elon down, and I went to Florida State University for 3 years, and I graduated in in 2021 with my Master of Fine Arts in Directing. While I was at FSU, I was able to teach there and work with their musical theater program. So I ended up getting some experience at Elon teaching at full time, but then I also got experience teaching in another musical theater program at Florida State University. And then I was applying for jobs, and this job came up at Brenau University for an assistant professor of musical theater, and I ended up getting it. And so I moved here. And if you don't know where Brenau University is, we are about 45 minutes north of Atlanta. I loved the idea that it was close to a major market. And then I came here, and I've been teaching here for a year. And I also have been working professionally as a director and choreographer at a bunch of summer stocks throughout the summers. So that's a long story, Tim, but kind of like where I, roundabout way of how I got into academia. But I absolutely love it. I love teaching. Um, it's it's exhilarating to see a student succeed.
What I love about that story is that you didn't really get into theater and dance until you were in college.
Yeah,
It drives the point home for me that what I tell students all the time about your 4 years in college is really about finding what path your career is going to take, more so than just focusing on one thing. And I think that's great. You made an entire career out of something that you didn't even discover you loved until college.
yeah, it was my third year of college that I took my first. It was my third year of college where I really put my focus into taking really foundational dance training. Other than when I was a kid in seventh grade taking that jazz class at that studio for like a summer, but I found it late. But I will say this, musical theater, I think all arts take a huge dedication. But the one thing that being an athlete my whole life taught me was the work ethic that is needed to succeed. And I pretty much looked at every aspect of training as like going to practice, going to dance class. I never was satisfied with, um, I always was striving to excel or to learn something new constantly. And that's, that interest and that curiosity, I think drove me through my career, including even to today. I'm an assistant faculty member with theatrical intimacy education. Who we teach, consent-based practice, and I work as an intimacy choreographer. And that's just something that just a new curiosity. I'm always trying to find that new curious thing to kind of expand my artistic voice, but not even just as an artist, but as an educator.
So let's switch gears now and talk a little bit about your program. I always ask my guests to give me your elevator pitch, your elevator speech on your program in 60 seconds or less. What reasons should students and parents be interested in Brenau University?
Well, I think first and foremost, musical theater takes a rigorous training, and we have a rigorous practical training in all three disciplines of acting, singing, and dance. But we also build that rigorous training around a foundational core of like a theater core courses. It's not only important for students to be professionals, you know, when they leave school. I think they need to learn that through their schooling process of what it means to be a professional. A BFA Musical Theater program, in my opinion, is a guide and a journey towards the professional market of being a musical theater performer on stage. But it's important that we're also developing that artistic voice of who they are as an artist in their classwork, production, creating new works that they have. Um, but for me, that our program is about that. Our program is about developing you as an artist with your own voice, driving to the professional market so that you can compete in this expansive world.
And as students are starting to do their research on Brenau University, they're going to see this other organization pop up. And before we dive too deeply into the nitty gritty of your program, you and I have talked about this before. Tell us what the
Yeah.
Gainesville Theater Alliance is and how it relates to Brenau University.
Yeah, so I was actually confused when I first got here because I was wondering what is this thing called the Gainesville Theater Alliance. I was applying for a job at Brenau University for their BFA Musical Theater program, but then I kept hearing this Gainesville Theater Alliance, language. Well, years and years and years ago, I don't actually know the exact history and how it was created, but I know that it has had a successful journey of a collaboration between two schools. There is Brenau University that I work for, and then there is the University of North Georgia, which is a state school. These two schools have created this kind of interesting partnership together to create a, a a vast theater program in conjunction with each other. So at Brenau University, we have the BFA in Musical Theater, we have a BFA in Acting, and we have a BA in Theater. University of North Georgia has a BFA in Technical Design and Production. What's incredible about this partnership is the main, like for instance, just the main stage season, every single one of our shows is sold out. We have a giant backing and a subscription base for our theater productions. And what that does is it helps bring in funding for us to do high level productions that are, in my opinion, on par with some of the top regional theaters in the country. Some of the production values we have with regards to UNG, which has the BFA in Technical Design and Production, they have an expansive amount of lighting, sound. We have a giant scene shop that is comparable to the scene shop that I saw at Florida State University's MFA Technical Director product curriculum or program. So it's when we have our shows, we have this high level of production value, and that really is brought from UNG's campus. They really their design and technical side really elevates our production. And then on Brenau's side, we have the artistic, basically your performative degrees. So we work in tandem to kind of create these productions and support each other throughout. So our students at Brenau University will take classes at UNG that are on the technical side. We will have the technical design and production students that will take, like for instance, I teach directing one. I had many technical, BFA T&D students in my directing one class. So we work in tandem there, but we also get to use both facilities, which gives us 4 theatrical spaces. So it's kind of an interesting, I like to tell people it's almost like a limited liability, like an LLC corporation umbrella that has created these schools the ability to work together to create these programs.
And
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. So just to help people wrap their brains around it too, what is the proximity between those two schools? Obviously, you're both in Gainesville, Georgia, but they're close by. Are they
It's
basically
a 10-minute
the same?
drive.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, they're drivable. It's not walkable, but it's about I want to say a good 10-minute drive, no more, depending on traffic.
So since you already touched on a little bit what the performance calendar is like in that explanation of the Gainesville Theater Alliance, can you let's go there now and tell me, as a BFA MT student, what does the performance calendar year look like?
Yeah, so our main stage season, we have 2 fully produced musicals. One usually happens in the fall, one usually happens in the spring. We also have a New Works Festival in our main stage season. The New Works Festival, like for instance, last year we brought in 3 professional playwrights that 1 musical and 2 plays that were commissioned and brought. 1 play was commissioned and 2 were new works that were being developed, that were already in development, that were brought in to do basically like 29-hour stage readings kind of like situation of those shows. But also during that New Works Festival, we also really try and celebrate this, like I said, the students' voices in their arts. And we have a lot of budding playwrights. So we also pick 10 10-minute shorts that students have written, and we produce them in the New Works Festival as they're a little bit more staged than a staged reading. It really depends on the piece and what the actual student wants to do with that production. But during that New Works Festival, we have like the professional works, and then we also have student works that are done there. We also fully produce 2 main stage plays. Um, there's also the ability, again, with this partnership with UNG. UNG has a really incredible film department, so our students will work on student films, and my wife actually did a student film at UNG last year, and it's incredible. I mean, it's a 10-minute short, and it looks like a major motion picture. And so it's my wife was in Beetlejuice on Broadway. I'll just throw that little tidbit there. So she's down here working the film market, but she actually did a student film here as well. So our students work in there, and then they get some of those reels to create like a professional film reel for themselves. We also have student produced and created capstone projects, and those they range. So every year, last year we had a play, we had a musical, and then there were a couple different like artistic style devise type projects. And then for our seniors, we don't actually have an industry showcase, but we are developing that, and we are going to start out with the Atlanta market, and creating that senior year capstone project showcase for that area, and then we'll hopefully be developing that to a wider scope. Another really kind of interesting thing is we've had students. We had our nursing department contact us, and we've had students work as accident victims, as basically they're told different types of style of, and then they're put into basically into scenarios, and then the nursing students, and they kind of create this live event that so nursing students can learn on the job training without with our students acting as actors, as victims in those in those accident scenarios. Very interesting. That's something new
Brilliant.
that started last year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's brilliant. That's
Yeah.
a gig, by the way, for actors that are outside of school. I know that a lot of people here locally do that at the hospitals and stuff. So
Yeah.
that's kind of a cool gig.
It's actually a thriving thing that people can make a really strong career doing. Like, such as a side note, as an actor, it really is.
Playing the victim has become a career opportunity. so, so as you mentioned, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say something that I wanted to kind of add with regards to, with our performance aspects, is the faculty that's supporting them. I would love to share that, like, our faculty is working in the industry, and we have some really influential people in our department. I'll just talk about Elisa Carlson, for instance. She is our voice and dialect and speech specialist, teaches all our voice classes, some movement classes for actors. And she is the primary dialect coach for the Alliance Theater, one of the major regional theaters in the country. She's also helped us develop, especially for our BFA acting and our musical theater students. We have set up a connection with the Alliance where our students can go down, and we set up a specific day, and they audition for the casting team at the Alliance. So she's helped facilitate that. She's also works in the Atlanta film market. She just worked on Stranger Things as their dialect coach. And our technical design team is also working on film sets in Atlanta, working on sets in professional markets down there. I'm working in summer stocks, directing and choreographing. I'm directing at Orlando Opera in a year, doing the Merry Widow. So we're very active in the industry. So we're maintaining our relevance in that aspect, so we can bring that relevance into our program. I wanted to make sure that I shared that with everybody.
Yeah, that's great. You mentioned you're looking at developing a senior showcase, and just because I know it's going to be something we want a little bit more, people would want a little bit more explanation of. As an incoming freshman, then, do you anticipate that by the time they're a senior, that there will be a senior showcase developed, at least in the Atlanta market?
Yes, my hope is that this year we're going to refocus and reshape the showcase to actually what the showcase has been, and the capstone project for the seniors. What we did last year was more of an internal production of their work on one of our stages, almost like another performance opportunity. I'm trying to focus and really reshape it into more of like an industry showcase. So it will still live in that space for probably about a year. I'm hoping that in a year that we can get some excitement, even if it's even if we start with just the regional theaters in the area. I mean, we have some pretty prominent regional theaters in the Atlanta market, and would love to get our students wrapped up in there. I've already been in contact with City Springs Theater, where Schuler Hensley is the artistic director. So they're a really prominent theater, and of course the Alliance. So I'm hoping that in a year to 2 years time, we have that developed.
So let's rewind now to freshman year. I am a
Mm-hmm.
newly minted BFA MT major coming to Brenau my freshman year. Can you walk me through what that freshman year looks like and what classes I'll be taking,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll go year by year after that.
Yeah, I really think that with regards to musical theater, I will say this out loud. I actually think that a musical theater BFA is it's very difficult to fit everything into 4 years, and almost should be a 6 year degree because of the massive amount of work. But obviously, we're not going to do that. We're going to try and jam everything into 4 years, right? Because we're
Right.
not going to want students want to get out there. They want to get out in the industry, So the thing is that in musical theater, you're trying to learn, three major disciplines. Plus, at Brenau, we are not a conservatory school. We have a liberal education, which I also think is really important. So that um, I've always been a fan of that. Even knowing I did this for 22 years as a professional actor, I needed to have an outlet that was away from theater. For me, it's playing video games. I'm going to say it out loud. I play World of Warcraft. so so that's my thing. That's my escape. That's what I love. I play with my friends.
That's
we
very
we do
brave of
that,
you.
all the time.
That's very brave
Yes,
of you
I,
to
I'm
say.
not shy. I am a restoration druid healer. So anyways,
It
so
just keeps getting
yeah, a
braver.
little bit about me. Yeah, I mean, I'm an open book. But anyways, so I do think that liberal education is really helpful to give the students something that gives them some perspective outside of theater, but also allows them to bring that into the theater as well. So, but in their first year, in their first semester, they take practicum, intro to theater, stagecraft, script analysis, vocal performance for musical theaters. They have their voice lesson, which I can talk about in a second because I've reshaped. So I don't know if anybody, I haven't said this. I just took over as program coordinator at the musical theater about 2 months ago. So I was not this last year. I am new at this, so I'm reshaping some of the curriculum and some of the things. For instance, voice lessons in our curriculum before, it was 30 minutes a semester. So basically 30-minute voice lesson every week for 4 years, every semester. I have now shifted that so that we can actually, every student has the ability to have an hour voice lesson every semester in the curriculum. But they have their voice lesson. They will take foundational ballet technique, so a ballet technique class. They will take piano. And then in their first semester at Brenau, they take a course called First Year Experience, which is a course that kind of gets them into the college life. It just kind of helps support their transition from high school to theater, or high school to college. But a musical theater student is going to class all day long. And so it's really hard to manage. And you have to, and I've actually been really supportive in helping students work out when to do homework, how to create a schedule for that, how to put that in their system. It's really important that they start learning that balance right away. So that's their first semester.
Great. So now let's talk about the remaining time there. Give me sort of an overarching. This is the path they take, because I understand after usually first semester, students can start to tailor their degrees specifically toward what interests them, and we'll talk here in a minute about the
Yeah.
possibility of minors and electives and all that. But sort of give us, as far as musical theater
Yeah.
training, what the balance of their 3.5 years are there.
I mean, for me, I really believe in every discipline in musical theater, acting is relevant. You have to act when you dance, you have to act when you sing, you have to act when you speak. So acting to me is probably the most important aspect of the program. Having foundational acting techniques, they start off with a Meisner track, where they take 2 semesters of foundational Meisner, but I have shifted the curriculum, and in what we would call Acting 3, we're creating a new course, which is going to be basically musical theater acting, which will be there. The musical theaters will only take it, and we will branch out into other areas and styles of technique of acting. So that, because I don't believe in one skill set, I don't believe in one, I think you should dabble in all different aspects of acting, including viewpoints, including rasa, including, all different areas, and, Hagen. It just, so that Acting 3, we're working towards creating a little bit more, diversification in their acting training. They can take Shakespeare, but in the musical theater courses, I teach Musical Theater Workshop 2, which is acting the song. And in that course, something that's really, I'm not going to say that, there's something that I do, that I learned this in grad school in my directing program, is I guess it's been a long time since I dabbled in Shakespeare, but I realized that Shakespeare basically is musical theater. How we break down text in Shakespeare, how we break down rhythms, how all that stuff. So in Acting 2, I begin to develop their ability to look at text from a Shakespearean way. So looking at alliteration, looking at repetition, end stops, not like pentameter or anything like that, but allowing the actor to really break down that text in a way, so that a vocal line, what is the operative word in that vocal line? So they're not just singing the line, they're actually bringing the text to life. And then we also focus in that class on breaking down what is the actual composer and the musical score telling you with regards to character. So that really is what we do in Musical Theater Workshop 2. Musical Theater Workshop 3 is another acting class that I teach, but that is a scene study class. So that we work in 3 different areas of musical theater. They do 3 goes at the scene, and we really work on their instincts, but that's taking all of their acting training. With regards to their dance training, I've codified it a little bit more than it used to be. It used to be pretty much ballet, jazz, ballet. And I was like, well, where is musical theater? So we are now taking ballet and jazz in their first year. And then they take 3 musical theater dance classes that build upon themselves. There's MT Dance 1, 2, and 3. I teach 2 and 3. And then I also have them taking modern, so that I really think that modern dance is, especially in contemporary musical theater, that style and the groundedness of modern dance is really important in the way musical theater dance has functioned, currently. And then they have a couple of electives there as well. In their music classes, like I said, they're taking an hour they can take an hour voice lesson every semester, and then they're taking a lot of theory, oral skills, piano. And then on top of that, they're also, like I said, they're taking theater core courses, learning how stages are built, how stage managements work, all those different aspects. It's really important to me, because this is how I was trained, that it is a team that puts on a production. The actor can't do the show without all the other people that are involved. So I think it's really important that we develop our musical theater students to understand and appreciate every aspect of how a production comes to life. And that is developed in their coursework, in their course load. I know that when I was when I was in my professional career and I was out on tour, I always made sure I learned on tour. If people don't know, you usually travel with a crew of about 9 people. And then in every theater, you pick up local technicians that will work on the show, dressers, backstage crew. I always made a point to learn people's names. People don't realize how important that is, to respect what every single person does to make that show come to life. And in our program, I make sure that students understand that all the time.
That's really great. Tell me, outside of musical theater, what sorts? Well, actually, let's stay within theater for a minute and talk about electives. How is it that students are able to tailor their degrees? Let's say they decide halfway through that they want to switch gears and become a musical theater composer, or something that interests them. They want to add arts management or something like that. What within the performing arts are they able to, how are they able to tailor that degree?
There are some music. I'll be honest with you. I don't know exactly what in the music department what music minor. I know they can take a music minor, which they can
Mm-hmm.
basically add more support in their music development. We can also take a dance minor. And then there's also, you can even minor in business or something. We just have to figure out how to work those courses, because it takes 30 credits to get a minor. And our load is 120. So we're looking, we're basically trying to figure out where to shift those classes. But I do have students that are dance minors. I have a student that's a music minor. I also have a student, I only have one, because this is massively difficult. And I'm sure a lot of other schools say this as well. But double majoring is very difficult. But I do have a student that is double majoring in musical theater and psychology right now. But that student came in with a ton of AP credits.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that student's liberal education requirement courses were waived because they were qualified with AP courses that were taken. If not for that ability, the only way to really double major would be to probably take some courses during the summer.
Yeah.
To give you an example, the tuition covers, or take a couple extra courses, but that would raise the tuition price. The students allowed 18 credit hours in their semester under their tuition. To give you an idea, I have the plan right here. They take 16, their first year they take 16 and 16. So there's 2 credits in each semester that are kind of open. They take 17 in their third, 16 in their fourth. So their first 2 years are packed. But then it gets a little bit less. Then there's a 16 credit hour semester, a 12 credit hour semester, a 14 credit hour semester. And then we can try and figure out and work with like different departments of how to create the minors. But I'm not going to lie, it is very difficult and takes a lot of dedication for that to happen. But we've had many students shift. We've had many students that have shifted, their focus, maybe from musical theater performance to stage management, but they're still in the musical theater program. So there's the ability to shift. What I always say, I think in the world, 90% of the world's problems are communication. And I tell the students right away, communication is of the utmost importance in our trajectory together. If you communicate to me early on, we can make anything work. But if we wait too long, then it's more difficult. So I just tell students to make sure they're communicating, about how their classes are going and how, what their desires are, but there is the ability for those things to happen. It takes a lot of work.
As you said, it's a 6-year degree you're cramming into 4 years. So it takes quite
Four
a bit of
years.
planning. Yeah. So
Yeah.
tell us, other than yourself, of course, tell us what other faculty members students will come into contact with on a regular basis. Who's the core faculty there?
Yeah, so Rick Gomez is our music director and our primary music professor that works. He's associate professor of musical theater. Rick, he helps really focus the development of the voice lessons and the music part of the degree. So there's also Dr. Tracy Brent Chesham, who's the chair of our department. She primarily teaches a lot of our theater core classes. She teaches our history courses. And in the technical side, in the acting side, we have Zechariah Pierce. Zechariah is currently the head of the BFA acting program. Zechariah is working professionally as an actor in the film market in Atlanta, and he developed the Meisner curriculum for that program. I already mentioned Elisa Carlson, who is our voice and speech specialist. We have professors Larry Cook, who teaches our stagecraft and a lot of design that those type of elements. But and in the dance department, John Strait and Dr. Mattie Cooper, they will interact with them. John teaches our musical theater dance one. Mattie is the head of the dance department, and she teaches modern, a bunch of classes. Also, John is a ballroom specialist. So he's creating a ballroom course that I'm going to try and figure out a way to work in our musical theater majors. I think one of the things that really is lost when I was in undergrad, we took a class called social dance, and we learned every social dance on the planet. And I equate that class to the ability for me to be a successful partner in musical theater dance. So I told John, I said, I really would love to have that ballroom aspect so that our students can really start to learn what it is to like partner with somebody, just learning the basics, even just to waltz around the stage, So those are some of the professors that they will interact with. And all of those professors are active in the professional market.
Great. Let's go on and switch gears and talk about the audition process. And you are brand new there, so talk not only about what it's like now, but what changes you might be looking to make, if any, as you continue to shape the program. My first question always is, do you pre-screen?
No. So what we're trying to do, no. I want to have everybody have the ability to audition for our program. And what I'm trying to do, and I know that Tim, you and I have talked a little bit about this, it's really expensive. I mean, I hear some of these, some students, let's talk pre-pandemic days. When I was at Florida State, some of those students would audition at 15 schools in person. I don't know how I couldn't afford that financially. Mm-hmm. So I want to make sure, what I'm really focusing on is how to make the audition process successful while allowing every student that has the interest of coming here to audition, but also keeping that cost down. So I am very open to the Zoom audition. I am attending all the events that you have, as well as any other event that I can go to, and that will be their audition. Like, so when I see them, I don't need to see them at an audition conference and then invite them to campus to then audition them again. And the only thing that I would like to do is after I see them, and there's interest there, I would like to have a Zoom meeting with them just to talk to them about the program, ask them what they're interested in, so they can feel confident and take any stress away. But I've also been given, I've been given full autonomy to accept people on the spot. I don't have to go through a process. And if I see a spark in someone, and even if I saw somebody at the conservatory, if I saw a spark in someone, that's their audition for me. And then I just want to have an interview and talk with them about their process and see what they're looking for. Because that, for me, to cut that cost down is super, super important. Now, we do have on-campus auditions, and I will invite anybody that would like to attend that. And that is probably like, at Elon and Florida State, they're very, very similar, and be very similar here. We would do a dance section. We would, have them come in, bring their vocal books, sing a couple selections, do a monologue. But more importantly, what I really want to find in the audition process, I just want to talk to them, and I want to find out who they are, what their desires are, because I can see your skill set in this net, but I also want to know, who you are as a person, and that I want somebody that positive energy with that high work ethic, So that's the audition process is not really a concrete thing that we have solidified right now at this moment, because I'm truly auditioning in all different aspects, whether it's coming to events that you're running, Tim, or I'm going to other conferences to audition students, or they're coming to campus and auditioning on campus. Again, for me, it's about taking the stress away and making it fun for the student. I want this to be an exciting thing and not a nervous ball of stress, which I know it is.
So just to, yeah, right. So just to clarify, like you just were at our conservatory and watched students there, and you're planning on being at, if you were to attend our mock auditions that we have in Chicago, or our final auditions that we hold, the Florida Combined auditions in January, even if the student hadn't previously applied, you may reach out to them and say, "Hey, I saw you at this event, and we'd like to offer you admission to our school."
Yes.
That's incredible and very generous of you.
Tim, I already met students this weekend, and I've been typing out the notes and stuff in the forms from the conservatory, and there's already students that I'm going to be reaching out to from that process.
That's beautiful. That's amazing. So you sort of already covered this, but I just want to make it drive the points home a little bit deeper. What are those qualities that are going to make a student stand out to you? I always say that they're auditioning for the role of student you can stand to be around for the next 4 years. So tell us what it is that really makes that spark for you.
It's funny, we all, I think every educator, we all have our isms. And what you just said there, one of my things that I always say is be the person in the room everyone wants to work with again. And I think that if you really bring that, obviously the musical theater, being a musical theater performer, there are demands. There are demands for singing, there are demands for acting, and there are demands for dance. My job is when I'm looking at an audition is not to see a finished product. My job is to look at that skill set that is being brought into the room by the artist, and looking to see, is that trainable? How can what is it? That's the one thing that an in-person audition does help with, is it gives you the ability to say, hey, let's sing this again and let's try this way. And you can kind of see if there's an adaptability there. But it's about finding that person that has a really passionate, positive energy in the space and has the work ethic and drive. Now, I can see that sometimes just from the resume and the training that they've done. Now, I will say this. My advice, and Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but be careful for all the students out there, be careful about overindulgence of the years of training in a specific discipline. And I will say this, because if you tell me you've had ballet for 14 years, that is you can say that to 3 different people, and 3 different people have a different idea of what that means, right? And I always like to tell the student, let me know what training you've had, and let me see the training and work ethic you had. But being careful to just being overindulgent about the amount of years, because I'll tell you this much: I've had students say, I've had 14 years of ballet training and they struggle with doing a single turn, let's say. And then I have a student that tells me, oh, I've taken jazz and ballet or whatever for 2 years and they can do a single turn, or they can, that student that is telling me they've only done it for 2 years and they can do this. I go, wow, what if I can get them in the room and train them? And then there's students that have this long journey, and I want to make sure that I can, that we can train them, because I want someone that's going to come to school that's going to grow. And that's really, really what it's all about. But having the work ethic, having the positive energy, and having just a foundation of skill set that is brought to the table is truly what needs to be there.
Mm-hmm. I've said that to students over and over again that want to say they've been taking voice lessons for 15 years and they're 18 years old. I'm like, I don't think that's really true. We don't want to oversell that. So I'm glad to hear you say that, because I've been saying that for a long time.
Just think about it. Think about it. If you say you've been singing for 4 years and you could sing this song immensely well, like, I'm going to go, wow, I can't wait to train you even more,
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I'm going to...
on a side note, Tim, I was going to say one other thing too, because I was noticing this and I gave a lot of notes in the conservatory this weekend. What's really important when they're bringing their material in the room is really having that connection to who they're talking to. Mm-hmm. Who am I communicating my song to? What do they want? And how are they bringing that out? Because it's not enough just to sing the lines, sing the notes. So bringing that level, again, acting number one. I'd rather have someone bring that intention and that acting to the text than sing the song and not have any acting. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Yeah, great pointer, of course. Let's wrap up this episode today with the same question that I ask everybody as we are concluding things. Tell me something that you are looking forward to this year.
So I finished grad school during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And my third year of grad school was just like everybody that was, online and virtual. Well, I was supposed to direct and choreograph Urinetown as my thesis. It was fully ready to go. It was designed. We had all the meetings done. It was pre-prepped. I was ready to start rehearsal, and then boom, it was canceled.
Right.
And I was like, oh. So I am actually directing. We put Urinetown in the fall, and I am directing and choreographing it. And I am finally going to get to try and present my thesis from grad school. Now, I did a thesis.
That's awesome.
I did Edges online as more like a film type musical. I did as my thesis because, we had to be socially distanced and outdoors and all that stuff like that. So I did that for my thesis. So I did do a thesis from grad school, but I'm going to get to finally do all that work I did for that show that never got to go to fruition. So I'm so excited to do that.
That is super exciting. Oh, how great for you. Michael, tell us if people want to learn more or have any questions about Brenau University, what's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, so you can reach us there's two different websites, www.brenau, that's BRENAU.edu/program/BFA That's our musical theater site, but that's for Brenau. But where you're going to find a ton of information and a lot more expansive because of that partnership with the Gainesville Theater Alliance is go to GainesvilleTheaterAlliance.org. And if you want to find more about me, you can find me at michaeldjablonski.com.
That's awesome. Michael, thank you so much again for joining us today and sharing all of the information about Brenau University and some of your vision and where you're going to lead it in the future. And I'm excited to see all that happen.
Tim, thank you so much for inviting me to do this.
All right. You have a great day.
Thanks, Tim.
For more information on the exciting training, workshops, and resources we have to offer at the College Audition, please visit us online at www.thecollegeaudition.com or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.